Hi, hey, and hi, and hello, and hi, and hello, and hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Goose. I'll be your tour guide today through the wonderful world of the manosphere. I know, it's been beat to death at this point, but apparently it's still a thing that people are sucking on and swallowing, hook, line, and sinker, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I'll throw my voice out there into the crowd of dozens of other voices already speaking on the subject, in the hopes that maybe my white noise will set itself apart from other people's white noise. Who knows? If you're wondering, who the heck is this guy? What authority does this guy have to be talking about what makes me a man and what makes me a toxic man and blah, blah, blah? Well, I'm nobody. Let's get that out of the way. I'm just a random guy putting thoughts out on the internet. And this just happens to be something that I enjoy doing. And the idea of masculinity happens to be something that I think about, being a man myself who didn't grow up with a positive male role model or any kind of particularly masculine circumstances. If I didn't mention it, I'm Goose. This is my main channel. If you like Marvel and comic book and video games should go me here. If you like comic book and Marvel stuff and movie stuff, please check out my second channel, Goose's Crackpot Theories. What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at some random manosphere videos, particularly shorts. I do not necessarily feel like doing more TikTok videos. That was last episode. It's hard to navigate. Shorts is actually harder to navigate. Who would have thought? You know, I'm an old man, so I'm still figuring my way around this stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at random videos, and we're going to take a bit of a different approach than last time. I'm actually got some stats that we're going to rate here on. So we're going to watch the video, and I'm going to rate it from a scale of 1 to 10 on how accurate the information is within said video. We're then going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how insecure this guy probably is, just for fun. And then in a true or false, we are going to label whether or not what we're seeing as legitimate propaganda. And when I spot it, I'll explain it, but that's basically whether or not the video is made specifically to send a message about an agenda, or the video is simply just made by a person who wants to share an idea. We'll see when we get there. Easy breezy. Here we go.
A masculine man wants a feminine woman.
What a good one to start on.
Let's break down the traits of the modern independent woman. Just wanting to be independent is a masculine trait. I don't need no man. Exactly. You don't need a man anymore.
A masculine man wants a feminine.
So at first he says, let's break down the traits of the modern independent woman. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Modern independent woman. Okay, modern woman. What is a modern woman? A woman who exists in 2023. Modern independent woman. What is that? A woman who can sustain herself on her job in 2023. What percentage does he think of the human population is women that can sustain themselves? I mean, that's I would say a good percentage. I would say all single women. I mean, most single women. Let's say who have careers. Most single career orient. I can't. Doesn't even make sense. And he says wanting to be independent is a masculine trait. How? What is he? Did he watch one nature documentary and think he's a bear now? And he says that if you're independent, that you're setting your life up for someone else to come into it. And he says that's as a man should be doing. But what do you do if you're like just starting out in college and you you're a woman, you're just starting in college and you don't have a significant other or a husband already that's telling you what to do or where to go or how to act or how to be or how to get to and from class. I don't know how handholdy he wants to be, but it seems like he wants to have a woman who's ready to have a leader, but the criteria his setting doesn't make any sense. It's kind of its own catch-22.
She's a boss babe. To be a true boss, you have to be inherently disagreeable and hard-headed in order to be an entrepreneur or to climb the corporate ladder.
And he says to be a boss, you have to be inherently disagreeable or hard-headed. I said that with a slight Irish accent for some reason, which I don't get. A boss is just a leader. A boss is just a person who leads a team. You can choose whether or not you want to be disagreeable or hard-headed, but you're certainly not going to win anyone's loyalty that way. So that's incorrect as it is. And then he says that saying, I don't need no man is, oh, right. Well, you don't need no man because you've become the man in your life. So now, apparently, women who don't have husbands are transgender, I guess? Tell the lesbians. I think they're probably going to be upset about that. Just saying. Don't know what to do with my hand. So I did the finger guns, and now I'm rapid fire. Now I've got a finger Uzi. Anyway, we're going to rate this one a so far 0 in accuracy. The guy is giving not necessarily insecure vibes, but jacked another dude's hook and outro to make a point not of his own, but that he supports. So let's say slightly beta. So we'll give it a 6 out of 10 for insecurity. And is this straight up propaganda? Well, production value with the logo, I'm gonna say probably. We'll give it a probably. All right, let's move on.
In order to become attractive, you have to realize that in life, everything as a man is 100% a competition. If the women don't find you attractive and you think there's something wrong with them, you need to take a good hard look in the mirror and realize there's something wrong with you. Your job is to level yourself up 24/7.
This is kind of one of those slippery... button came undone. This is one of those slippery slope ones. I'm just gonna do a quick little peeky looky, peeky tiki. I think we're seeing a lot of this sort of surge of Andrew Tate-like channels, which are very sort of adjacent, but not as SA oriented, or the people doing them aren't traffickers of some sort. I think they're trying to get the manosphere to move beyond, or they're trying to get the manosphere to move away from the Tates, appropriately so, but this stuff is still a slippery slope to the alt-right pipeline. Attacking this video specifically, he says that everything as a man is competition, which is just this weird machismo mindset that I think that leads to a lot of insecurity and shame that young men feel for not being able to achieve success like society demands that they do. We are people. We are all human beings, and we are not competing necessarily for anything. We can file for welfare, unemployment. We can apply for jobs. If we don't get a job, we can apply for another one. Nothing has to define us. So there is no truth to the idea that everything is a competition, because we as people, including men and women and everyone in between, can achieve whatever we want in close proximity to whatever we want at any time, given enough effort and willpower. So the idea that everything as a man is a competition is just straight up false. If you're a young man and you think that you have to compete with other young men just to be successful, that's wrong. Don't believe that. That's propaganda. Everything he says after that, such as if the women don't find you attractive, then it's a personal problem and you have to level up yourself, that is good advice. It's good advice. And the reason I say that this is slippery slope Andrew Tate content is because you wrap good advice into something that's a little dubious and questionable and might lead to more problematic behavior in the future. See what I mean? It's very easy to accept that little nugget of untruth in a pile of truth. Don't get brainwashed. So as far as rating goes, is this accurate in the information that it presents? No, and then yes. So let's say that this is a 7 out of 10 for accuracy. As far as the second criteria goes, which I can't remember. Oh, as far as how insecure I think the guy is who's made it? Well, he's got a channel. He's probably making a little bit of money. Chances are he's probably in it just as much for the money as he is to spread his message. So I'd say, and he seems like a good enough looking guy. You know, he probably is popular among friends and other people. So so probably not that much insecurity to speak of. It seems like he's pushing a positive message with a little bit of, you know, some latent machismo that he's got to work through, but I'd say almost as 1 out of 10 on insecurity. You know, maybe there's still a little bit of questions that he has to answer about himself, but honestly, he seems just fine. Just pushing a message I don't like, which is cool. Is it straight up propaganda? Yes. That idea that everything is a competition is straight up propaganda. There is no significant study or biological imperative that we compete with others because we are now civilized. We are not animals anymore. We have risen above that. I'm sure the lizard brain still feels that sometimes, but a good man doesn't resort to listening to his lizard brain. That's a trait for a man. I'm rambling, aren't I?
When you're a woman's main guy, you will consistently see a decline in intimacy. You're going to see an uptick in business.
Okay, here we go. My brain's hurting. Confused at the message.
You're going to see a decline in sexual desire. Even though you're quote unquote the side guy, in her heart of hearts, you are looked at as the main guy. And she's going to now be chasing your attention and your validation.
Okay, when you're a woman's main guy, and then he goes to another point, so you will So when you're a woman's main guy, so you're gonna notice an uptick in what are you basing that on? Where's the meat to this fact sandwich he's trying to convey here? Overall, it seems like he's saying a woman cannot be in love with 2 men at the same time. I don't know why that's the subject. I don't know why this video was made. I don't know why Casey Zander felt the need to share this information with us. And the title says how masculine men act in a relationship with a beautiful woman. So don't be a side guy is his advice, I guess. 0 out of 10, don't understand what your message is, so I can't tell you how accurate it is. You can be in love with 2 people at the same time. Haven't you ever heard of like, you know, you lose your first love and then you have another one? I think you're always in love with the first love, and then you move on, and then you work through your issues and move to the next person. Insecurity is 1,000 out of 10. Like, that's just, where is this coming from, dude? Propaganda? No. Just a sad dude. Just a sad man. I'm gonna look at this guy's YouTube. Okay. Oh my god. On one of his thumbnails it says, makes them dry, and it's advice on how not to be emasculated by women. My god. That's enough of that.
Ready? These are 3.
I'm not ready. Now we're ready. And this is loud. This shit's loud. Turn that down. I'm very stoned right now, so I might sound like it. All right, 3 nice guy behaviors that'll ruin your life. Let's find out what they are.
Nice guy behaviors that will ruin your life. Number 1 is apologizing for everything. When you're always saying sorry, not only does it make you look weak, but you also start to approach life from this mindset that you're just like a nuisance to other people. Stop saying sorry.
Okay, so I'm slightly familiar with this guy. He does a lot of that slightly questionable, sort of like overly masculine machismo kind of stuff. You know, stuff that is being featured in this video here.
Number 2 is the fake favor. This is when you do something that's nice to someone else, but really you're trying to manipulate them into doing something for you. And number 3 is being passive aggressive.
Now, the nice guy internet term being what it is, I assume he's talking about behaviors from entitled toxic men, which that's a good message. Yeah, these are 3 behaviors that entitled toxic men tend to use that they gotta stop using, and this is a video in order for him to push that agenda. Okay, apologizing is the number 1 nice guy behavior that will ruin your life, and what he says is apologizing for every little thing, and it kind of seems like a veiled attack on empathy. I don't want to accuse the guy of anything or pushing any kind of specific message, but the problem with this phrasing here is that he's saying that apologizing makes you look weak, and that being a weak or emasculated man is what leads to the internalization of masculinity? I'll have to Google that. Basically, the bottom line is he's saying that apologizing is a problem. Needlessly apologizing is a problem, which I agree with. 10 out of 10 for accuracy. But the basis for it is that it makes you seem like a weak man, which again is strange. I think the idea of being overly apologetic could lead one to believe that you're overly empathetic or that you are an empath or whatever, like you are trying to account too much for other people's feelings, which he appears to think makes men look weak, which isn't true. I mean, you can have a wide range of emotions and still be a manly man. Doesn't stop you. That to me says maybe there's some underlying insecurity he's attaching to being apologetic or expressing more than normal empathy, more than the status quo's amount of empathy. And the examples that he uses are very innocent everyday mistakes. So maybe as a younger man, he was feeling somewhat stepped on or stepped over and had that personality, and in order to become successful or the successful person he is now, he had to overcome that, and to him, looking back on that, that's what helped him overcome his issues. So him spreading that message is what he hopes will help other people overcome those issues. Yeah, and then he says that if you're approaching life with a mindset that you're a nuisance to people. So I think he felt like he got in the way of somebody that he respected, and it kind of carried that trauma around with him and then overcame that, and that's now what he's using to say, oh, you got to overcome this like I did, not realizing that people's experiences are all subjective. So, and then number 2, he says the fake favor, like it's some sort of a new concept that people are just now aware of. That's not a thing. That's called, he says, when people do a favor for you specifically to get something they want, that's called manipulation. That's just don't be manipulative. I think that's good advice for anybody, not just whatever he considers as a nice guy. That's just general advice. And then number 3 is being passive aggressive. Again, you see what I mean? This is, again, one of those sort of slippery slope videos where they take one really weird concept, which number 1 was the looking weak, and then they wrap it in other things that are sort of just generally true. So it's like, is that an agenda, or is he just regurgitating the same format of media that he's been consuming? This guy, I would say, what did I just do with my hands there? This guy, I would say 0 out of 10 for accuracy for that first one, 5 to 8 out of 10 on the other ones, but like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. As far as insecurity goes, 6 out of 10. Let's be generous. Let's say 6 out of 10 as far as insecurity goes, though I've seen the videos on this channel, so I'd probably go a little higher myself, but hey, maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I'm projecting my own insecurities. That could be this whole video. Who knows? I'm willing to see, a real man is willing to question his core beliefs and adopt new concepts should they become available. Again, doing weird things with my hands. Just gonna have to remind myself to stop it. Yeah, so don't manipulate people, don't overreact or fly off the handle or get violent, or, I mean, again, he's giving good advice, but then he also in the same breath said, don't apologize because it makes you look weak. And I get it. There's nuance. He said, don't apologize all the time. I get it. Just shut up. Just shut up. Just shush. You shush. You shush your face off.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with looking feminine as a man, but if you don't want to, you need to avoid these 3 things.
What? Why are you yelling at me, man? I don't know, man. This guy, he's looking like he's angry, and hopeful at the same time. He's angry, he's hopeful, he's pleading for my attention. Okay.
Number 1 is man boobs. Man boobies make you look feminine. So do wearing earrings as a man and overly thin or arched eyebrows.
It's not hateful if he says with all due respect, right? Okay, so he starts the video with all due respect to feminine men, here's what makes you look feminine. And then I guess number 1 to looking feminine is being overweight. If you have slight amount of fat on your chest. Number 2 is wearing earrings, which, like, is this the 70s? Like, since when? Since any of us have been alive, maybe this guy, because he looks like he's fucking 70. Since when was earrings a bad thing for men? Like, when was that an overly feminine thing? I believe when I was growing up, there was like some bullshit rule where like, oh, you couldn't wear them on a certain ear, or else it makes you gay or something, you know? Like, oh man, it's like people do that in order to, you know, signal to each other. Like, what? How many people do you know will signal openly that they are a marginalized group that tends to be hated on by other people? Like, I mean, even the stories about the Christians is that they weren't openly drawing the fish symbols. They were only doing them in front of other Christians. So why would they openly advertise something like that? That's something that's just going to get them ridiculed. That's dumb. And so is the idea that earrings make someone fucking feminine. That's just such an arbitrary thing to have a problem with. It's been like 40 years that men wearing earrings in American society alone has been accepted. Thousands of years in other cultures. So just a weird. I mean, my insecurity meter's already going off the charts here. That other dude was at 1,000. This guy's like, whoo. And overly thin or arched eyebrows. Wow. Okay, so I guess you gotta have specific genetics in order to be a masculine man. It's the overall message. Very specific genetic. You gotta look a certain way. You can only be between a certain, weight range, or else you're feminine, apparently. Oh. 0 out of 10 for accuracy. A friggin' infinity out of 10 for insecurity. I've also seen some of this guy's other videos, and they all just yell at you for some reason. And it's all about like, you're not doing this right. You're not doing this right. You gotta do this to be a man. You gotta yell to be a man. You gotta have flat pecs to be a man. Kind of stuff. So let's move on, shall we? And it is propaganda because this guy's pretty well, seems funded. He seems funded.
My name is Aaron Marino, and
Sorry. Gentlemen, I'm an alpha male. Hi. All Things Alpha M, the #1 men's lifestyle influencer on YouTube, joins 6 million, can't read that, subscribers getting exclusive advice every week. This actually touches on something that I would love to cover in another video. Don't interrupt me. In another video where I do a deep dive into sort of why people do these things. Like a good breakdown right now, just sort of a bottom line, is people only say something or take a stance on something in a rigid format if they have some kind of agenda to push. And that includes me too. Like I'm a left-leaning individual, and I'm making a video like this in order to spread my message of left-leaning whatevers, and that's my agenda. And I may not, some people have agendas who are backed by millions of dollars in production money and things like that, and their message can get a little further than mine. But we all have agendas. Anyone taking a stance on something, if I tell you that all cops are bastards, then that's me taking a stance. There's a clear reason why I would take a stance, because I would believe that. So the idea that I would love to do a dive into is how many or what percentage or what's the spread of people that actually really believe this stuff and are just regurgitating these talking points because they truly believe it and because they support the message, or what percentage of them might just be advertising and trying to attach that message in order to advertise to people that support that kind of stuff. So that could be something for some other time, but let's move on.
Most women don't like most men.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird claim to make that most women don't like most men, but let's bear with it for a moment here.
The first reason is due to inflation of options, right? Also, not to mention the 90-10 rule. 90% of the women are usually going after the top 10% of men and what they find the most attractive. And then average woman versus the average man. The average woman has access to higher status, more attractive men, versus the average guy really doesn't have the same access that even an average woman would have nowadays.
Inflation of options, the grass is always greener due to social media, women's egos are bigger for some reason. Was he, I mean, I know he wasn't around, but does he not know any history before the 1800s? Like, I mean, most women don't like most men. That's a very weird claim. I don't know what science backs that up. I think that's a very strange statistic to claim, but that's okay, I guess. We don't have to be accurate, we just have to be passionate. And then he says that women are always thinking that the grass is greener and that they have big egos. Classic insecurity, right? It seems like, this guy needs to be told that if you're thinking that your girlfriend's always thinking about cheating, then perhaps you might need to do some work on yourself. Maybe there's something that you're not quite comfortable with. Maybe there's some question you might have about the relationship, or a question you have about yourself, or something that you wish to learn about her. But that's something therapy can help you work through. So get into a therapist's office and tell them about it. Tell them about that fear you have and try to work through that. That's about what that boils down to. The 90-10 rule is probably just something that goes around the manosphere. I don't think it's rooted in science. It is not rooted in fact. That's not a thing. There is no such thing as the 10% of the top 10% of males in terms of look, money, and power. I think taste is subjective, and I think most people would agree on that. So you can't really have such a widely reaching statistic when everybody's opinions are all completely different. I don't know. I think that that's spurious at best. But nobody's asking me. And he even says in what they find most attractive. So what did they poll 3.5 billion women in order to get this statistic? Getting a text. And looks, money, and status. Like what, where are they getting the stats on that 3.5 billion women who are preferring specific demographics of looks, money, and status? Where are the studies? Source? And then, then he has to check his notes. Hang on a sec. The average woman versus the average man.
The average man.
And he says something about access. Like the dating is not a store that you go to that you then like pick out a woman and then take her to the cash register. This is the same BS takes in the manosphere that are like ooga booga. Caveman got a bonk woman and drag home by hair. Like this is another example of the slippery weird ass slope. Like he says, well, none of the things he says have been true, but this is even weirder. Like this is the most weird thing. Like what, you are somehow supposed to be able to just select and bone anyone you want. Like nobody thinks that. Well, okay, he thinks that way, and people who agree with him think that way, but not reasonable, practical people. Real people don't think that way. Real men don't sit there in their computer chairs wondering why the dating pool that they have access to is so small. Like, I don't like you put yourself out there and you make yourself vulnerable, and if someone bites, if someone is interested in you and they match with you and you hit them up and stuff, then cool. Then you go out on a date and you see if you have compatible interests. Like, it's a process. There is no bubble wrapped woman on a shelf that you can just take out and play with. And then, I don't know, like what do you expect? Like what? There's slightly more women in the world than there are men. Like what access do you think like if people have? If you're secure in yourself, if you're secure in who you are, and if you've done the proper amount of work on yourself and your core values and all that stuff, you will find companionship. It's just a matter of having patience, having, your emotional and mental healths, those ducks in a row, and then just putting yourself out there. And that's the hardest part for a lot of people. That's all you got to do. And I think these guys know that, and these guys want to capitalize on your insecurity and assuage their own, perhaps. Anyway, 0 out of 10 for accuracy. Come on. 10 out of 10 for insecurity. Okay, I'm being hasty. 0 out of 10 for accuracy, and 5 out of 10 for insecurity. And is this propaganda? Well, it says vlogs. He does like vlogs, so maybe. I don't know. Don't care.
Wow, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
This is a pretty good example of the kind of content that I'm looking for. The real meat and potatoes, the real deviled egg of the Thanksgiving that is the manosphere. So this is somebody that's clearly been corrupted, I mean, they've sucked this down, hook, line, and sinker. They're saying a straight man in 2023 doesn't know whether a man looks like a man or a woman looks like a woman, but finds them both attractive, and then apparently dogs are cats. Nobody's saying that dogs are cats now. That's not accurate. That's not a thing that anybody is saying. That's sort of just kind of keeping in line with the whole narrative that people can just change their gender at will, which is not a thing that happens. For anyone who doesn't know, children are not somehow getting gender affirming surgery. Nobody's getting surgery at elementary school age, or even junior high age, or even most of high school age. You are in years and years of psychological consultations. You're taking hormones and puberty blockers, and then you are living lifestyle as the gender that you wish to be a part of or identify as. And then when you're an adult, or when you've had years of research conducted on you by qualified professionals, then you can get that stuff done. And that just ain't happening. No cats are turning into dogs. No men are just straight up changing into women. If you're finding everything hot, perhaps you're not a straight man. I mean, that's just the single most glaring issue here. If you're thinking that everything you see is attractive, then perhaps you might not be straight. Perhaps you might be somewhere else on the wide spectrum that exists. Might be time to go to some therapy and work through some stuff. That's a 0 out of 10 on accuracy, and that's a 10 out of 10 on insecurity. I hope you get help, my friend. Not propaganda. Unfortunately, probably a victim of said propaganda.
He said that male depression gets treated like female depression.
All right, so this one's really just more sort of straightforward. That sort of idea that to be a man, you've got to be these things that everyone is or can be.
I had a brilliant upbringing. And then I think about the lessons that my dad taught me. Once I rode my bike over my neighbour's lawn and he grabbed me and he said, "You respect other people's property." That for me was the male role model, was be tough, be strong, be respectful. I'd done something wrong and I was so upset. And he just sat there and he went, "What are you going to do about it?" They want someone just to sit there and stroke my ego and tell me that everything's going to be okay. That over a prolonged period of time can definitely lead to entitlement.
So some nebulous person says that male depression gets treated like female depression, and that men are made to feel loved and accepted when they want to feel capable and powerful. Not sure who said that, but it doesn't sound like proper grammar, so I'm going to say that it's probably a made-up fact. Gonna need to wonder which peer-reviewed document they pulled that out of. And then the second guy just starts telling a story about his dad. No verification, no explanation, just we go into some stories where he's riding a bike on his neighbor's lawn, and then his dad physically assaults him, then tells him to go apologize and that you don't disrespect other people's property. Again, this is a universal value that all parents should be teaching to their kids. This could be a mother and her daughter for all we know. Like, what? How is this unique to the male experience? It's what I have to wonder. God, I don't know why I'm doing that. Hey, Parcheesi! He said it was a time when he was feeling anxious or had anxiety, and his dad told him to suck it up and grow some balls, I guess. Like, it seems like he's just trying to share a message that you must be disciplined and even-tempered in anxious or high-stress situations, which I can agree with. But again, it's mentioning it sort of in spite of womanhood, or sort of like with the idea that, because he even says, in addition to that later, he says, oh, you know, I don't want someone that's going to stroke my ego or tell me that it's all going to be okay or that I'm okay how I am, which is going to lead to entitlement. That's a wide canyon to jump, to go straight from, you know, having emotional and mental support by loved ones to being entitled. Again, it's this weird cudgel. It's this weird, like, you can't be a man unless you do these things. And any kind of emotional maturity is just weakness. Gosh darn it. We're going to say 0 for accuracy, and we're going to say, despite these gentlemen's stoic demeanors, we're gonna say that there's a little bit of insecurity there. I'm gonna say like 7 out of 10. Is it propaganda? Yeah. High production value, podcast setting, when it probably isn't a podcast, I assume. All right, so that's pretty much it for the shorts. Next week's video is going to be trying to look to the manosphere to figure out how to get a date. Not for me because I'm married, but you know, it's the thing. Anyway, that's about all I got for you.